Hi guys, welcome to our first Q&A video. We have been receiving so many texts and emails and messages over Facebook and Twitter and all sorts asking us questions on our videos, so we thought that we would answer them. I do try and get back to everybody, but it doesn't always happen. And For Lock and Load, our sponsors, have kindly said that any questions that we use on our Q&A will receive a 10% discount code. So I'm going to whiz through some questions now, and all you guys that I'm using your questions, then hopefully I'll answer them and I will send you a discount code for the For Lock and Load website. So let's get going. So my first one is from Megan Cole, and she asks, do I long rein the youngsters? Megan, I do long rein, but not very often. I don't tend to find a need for it unless a horse really needs to work on his steering, or maybe other problems like that, or maybe has a problem with his back. But generally I use lunging and then tend to get on them after the desensitizing, so I don't have a great need to long rein. The next question is from Christian Slaney, who asks, how old are the horses when I back them? Well, it really does depend. Ideally, I like them in as 3-year-olds to be lightly backed and ridden away and then turned away. But we often do it with 4-year-olds if they're not really developed enough or strong enough or ready at 3. Sometimes we get 5-year-olds. It really depends, but my ideal age is 3. The next question is from Amy, who asks, what bits do I use when I'm backing horses? So mainly snaffles. I try and keep it really simple, either with a little rubber mouth or a little bit of sweet iron. Nothing exciting, just snaffles. Nick has asked, what sorts of saddles do I use? Obviously, when I am eventing, then the horses are used to jumping saddles, close contact saddles, dressage saddles. When I'm backing horses, generally we like to use sort of a GP saddle, but it doesn't really matter. Jumping saddles are fine too, just as long as the horse is comfortable and it's balanced and fits correctly. We're not too fussed what sort of saddle it actually is. Equicane has asked how we dismount the youngsters. Well, if you watch the videos, we do a lot of desensitizing with the youngsters, and a lot of lying over, getting on, getting off the mounting block. So actually we tend to do that quite early on, and it's very much, slowly, quietly, gently to begin with, but essentially you just get off. If you're meaning when the horse is first done, then we ask them to stand and just lean forwards and just talk to them and get off as quickly and as lightly as you can, so it doesn't frighten them, and just praise them and give them big pats, tell them they're very clever. We don't tend to have any issues on getting off generally. So the next question is from Danny Hefferon, and she asks, what is the best way to start lightly backing a newly purchased 3-year-old? So I did actually have a conversation with Danny over Messenger, and the horse really is newly purchased. So I say that when they first arrive, don't do much with them. Let them just find their own space in their stable. Let them watch you being busy around the yard, making hay nets, sweeping. You're then not in their own space, so they don't feel defensive and they can just watch and get the feel of everything, and start to settle down. The other thing is let them go out in the field if they can, so that it just lets them use their legs, especially if they've had a long way to travel. It takes it, a lot out of youngsters. And let them go and eat some grass, let their tummies settle a little bit. They're really sensitive and often carry tension even if they're not really showing it. So the first day or two in the stable, in the field, really quiet. The next thing we start to do is just introducing normal things like picking out feet, grooming, being around them, letting them get to know us. They're quite inquisitive as youngsters, so they can start to take a little bit of busyness and a bit of activity. And then also checking things like they're okay to be tied up on the yard in a safe area, so that basically they can start to have some tack on, be tacked up safely and groomed, ready to be ridden. Also, it's worth bearing in mind to be flexible and be ready to change your plan. I really do go with my instincts on how the horses are settling, and nothing's set in stone, so we really go with what the horses need. The next thing I do is wait until the arena is fairly quiet, a quiet time of day, and bring the youngster up, either walking round, or if they're a little bit fresh and they have been lunged, then pop them on the lunge, or let them have a little wander around, basically a bit of arena familiarization, and just let them get accustomed to everything and see where they're going to be working, so that they're relaxed when we want to start working them. So once they're happy in the school, then you can start to do a little bit of in-hand work with them, some transitions using your voice, stopping, using body language, and some desensitizing with them. You'll see that on our backing and breaking youngsters video. So we really won't start working much more than that until they are really, really settled. There's no point because they just can't learn. So once they're settled, they're in hand, and we might then even start to pop them out on the lunge and start to use tack. So those are the really early stages of how we start getting a 3-year-old ready to be backed. And it is really worth bearing in mind that don't just watch YouTube videos. If you haven't backed horses before, please find a respectable trainer that is available to come and help you and bounce ideas off. And just remember that all riders, they could be a good rider, they might not be used to youngsters, so really look for an experienced trainer who's used to dealing with youngsters. So the next question is from Amy Lee Bates, who asks, how do I deal with a lack of brakes and steering when a youngster moves his neck one way but his body travels in the wrong direction, and she's reluctant to take much pressure on his mouth. So this is completely normal, and they can take quite a while to get out of their bendy stage. Youngsters are quite gangly and a little bit wobbly, so that is really, really normal, and quite right. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on their mouth unnecessarily. So I'll run through a few tips of how we can help get them out of this stage. So first of all, this is actually a case where I would long rein, and as I am getting the horses turning and steering, I say and turn, and then you can start to do that when they're ridden, so they learn a word that basically means turning. When you're riding, look where you want to go, don't be drifted off with, so pick a point and ride towards it, and make sure that your body is riding towards that point so that you don't get drifted, and then it's a bit of a vicious circle and they start drifting with you. So think about straightness and where you're riding to. The next thing is to lunge in side reins and get them used to working with a little bit of a contact in their mouth so they develop a mouth. If you haven't used side reins before, please ask a trainer on how they should be fitted. When you're on him, keep using different turns and circles and transitions. Really try and get him listening and understanding. Just be patient and keep asking for different turns. Remember to reward when he's good as well. Finally, instead of reins, you can clip on 2 lead ropes, one on each side of the bit, and then it makes a really direct aid to the horse's mouth. It's a trick that isn't used very often, but it is handy if the horse just isn't understanding which way to turn. So 1 lead rope on each side of the bit helps, and it's easier for the rider to hold on to rather than using reins. So remember to be patient and encourage the horses. Don't frighten them or scare them. Tell them when they're good, and try and help them as best you can in being patient. So guys, I hope you have found this Q&A session on backing horses really helpful. We really like hearing people's questions, and I really enjoy helping people, so do get in touch with us. So remember, you can find me on Facebook at GG Eventing and GL Equestrian, on Twitter at GG Eventing. My website is glequestrian.co.uk, and please, please, please remember to subscribe and like our YouTube channel, GG Eventing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.